I am indeed open about it, not only to my family, but also to my boss, to my team. When you're a woman working on this level, it's one thing, right? You always have less time than your male colleagues. It's a given. It's even proven in all the research. So time is of the essence. Everyone needs to make sacrifices when you're working on this level. Although I really try to be there as much as I can, I am definitely not always there, and I miss some highlights.
Floor, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Happy to be here.
Nice to see you again. Before we jump in, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself personally and the journey to where we are now in the current organization.
Yes, I will do so. So my name is Floor van Griensven. I'm 47 years of age, and almost half of my life, so about 24 years, I'm working in HR because that's my true passion. I have a passion for people, for organizations, and for giving color to it, for making it better. I've worked for 3 employers in the past. I started in a law firm where I really learned that details matter, working hard, contracting, negotiations, etc. So that was a very, very good learning school after my law degree. And then as I did labor law, I got insights in many, many big corporates. And that gives you such valuable insights where you would like to work, where you would not like to work, how they treat their people. And then I joined Heineken after that law firm. And that's where I stayed 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I never expected to work somewhere for 17 years, to be honest. But it's a great employer, and they gave me so many opportunities. I did about 7 or 8 jobs there, all in HR, as mentioned. And I made a sort of sports out of it to jump from HR specialist jobs to HR operational jobs to really gain the end-to-end HR experience. And I worked in global roles. I worked in production, in the breweries. I worked in different countries, in the Netherlands, in Germany, but also in Africa. And in Africa, I learned what true resilience is. So I got many angles in HR. And it was my dream to become end-to-end responsible for HR myself, just overall. And that's why 2.5 years ago, I joined Trivium. And that's where I am Chief People Officer in this moment of time for 2.5 years now.
Amazing. And tell everyone a little bit more about the company.
Yeah, Trivium is a metal packaging company. It's a global company. We have about 60 locations worldwide, and about 7,500 employees. In revenue, it's about 3.3 billion. So it's a good and fast changing company. And we really want to wow the world with our metal packaging products. And we have all kinds of big customers. So we make, for example, metal packaging, the cans for paints and coatings. We make cans for food. We make cans for seafood. We make cans for baby powder, and that in a sustainable way, because metal has the advantage that it is recyclability. So it's you can recycle it forever. So it's our aim to become the global, the leading metal packaging company in the world, and we're working very hard on that. So it's a great company to do all the HR stuff for.
Amazing. So most of us have probably used your product and just had no idea.
Exactly, because the name Trivium is not on the products actually.
Yeah,
so, but if you eat seafood or the tuna or the tomatoes in cans, many of them are produced by Trivium.
Amazing. I love your lead up to your background, because one of the themes over the last 8 years of me doing this show, if people ask me, what do I look at when you speak to CHROs or CPOs that are being most successful, one of the traits that I see across them is exactly what you described, is that they've worked across multiple functions, not just within HR, but multiple business units in the company, like you mentioned itself.
Definitely.
The second trait is that they've worked globally across cultures and continents to be exposed to different cultures, and that experience, both living in the business in different functions, sales, supply chain, product, like you said, as well as the role across the specialist areas of HR with that global experience, creates the experience that they need to be a great CPO. So was that something you can relate to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with that, because if you have done the specialist roles, you have all the tools in your backpack to really quickly take out. And on the other hand, if you have been in the operational roles, you really know how to implement it fast. If you have been in global roles, you know more about the strategy and how to define a strategy and how to roll it out. So when this all comes together, then you can move so quickly. And that's exactly what you need to make a difference. And that's what the business likes, right? If you really can combine your HR skills resonating into the business, then you can move fast. And that's key.
Yeah. Was you intentional about that, or was that just how your career planned out? Like, was that something you were conscious of, or would you say that is something you look back and are thankful that it sort of planned itself that way? If that makes sense.
That's a good question. Actually, I never thought about it that way. In a way, it went naturally. I'm very curious, so I really want to know how things work, and then I dive into it. So it didn't surprise me that I start in specialist roles, for example. And I really also enjoy execution, on the other hand, so that I did that first before I went to bigger roles, more strategic, less hands-on, so to speak. In a way, it was a natural way how it went, and it also followed my interest and what I was passionate about in that moment in time of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the growth mindset mentality led you on those different journeys naturally, because you have a desire to learn, grow, develop, challenge yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other hand, I also don't think it's a coincidence, right? Because I'm not sure if coincidence really exists. So you also you do it with a certain purpose, a certain drive. And in the end, if you really know something in that role, what you're doing, then you want to continue, and then you grow further. So at least this is how it went in my case. But everyone is different. I can also really resonate with people who are true specialists and who want to stay within their specialist zone. I'm very happy that not everyone is like me and always wants to move forward. So you need all the kinds of types.
What advice
to make it work?
What advice would you give the younger HR leaders now about how they reflect and plan their career journey moving forward? Looking back, having gone on this journey.
First, I really believe you need to do the role that you really have a passion for, because HR is intense and you absorb a lot. It's not only hard work, but all the things that you get on your plate from the business, it's intense to absorb. So you need to really like what you're doing. I think that sounds like an open door, but that is key. And then secondly, I really recommend to really do specialist and operational roles and do global roles and do national in your own country roles, because you get the end-to-end view, and that really makes that you can operate with speed. So that's what I really recommend. And in the past, when I was younger, and I know I sound like a grandma now, but when I was in operations and I had these global people telling me what to do in global HR, but who had never been in operations before, I was like, oh my God, they really don't know how HR in practice looks like.
Yeah.
And then it's so much harder to take that from someone. It's the same as you're a labor lawyer. You only do cases from your desk, but you have never had a termination and exit in a conversation, and you never dismiss someone, right? These are two total different things that require totally different skills. But if you combine them, then you can really do a top of the bill. And that's what I recommend to everyone. So these would be my two main recommendations for young people who are starting an HR career.
Yeah. How did you balance that workload whilst still making time to upskill and reskill yourself? Because that seems to be a common challenge, because the pace of change is so quick and so fast. And that's something that I see many HR leaders struggle with, even now more than ever.
Yes, you need to keep up with what is going on. And the HR activities are evolving, right? I mean, and it's going fast. So the whole well-being topics, the DRB topics, the flexible working topics, these are more newer topics from the last, let's say, 5 years or something. Before that, they didn't take all the compliancy regulations that are coming to us, and they are it's lots to absorb for HR. So you need to remain on top of the game. So and how do I do that? That's indeed a challenge. Besides a CPO, an HR professional, and a colleague, and being truly in love with my work and what I do, I'm also a mom of 4. So I have 4 children that I also want to be around for, obviously. I'm also a partner. I'm also married. So finding the time for yourself, that is, and for your development and for your own needs, that's not easy, but you need to do it. So you need to block time in your agenda. And these are simple things, but what I do on a weekly basis in my agenda, I look at all my appointments on one day and I color code them. And I know I sound like a structopath now, but I color code them like what gives me energy and what drains my energy. Since I do that, my life has changed. It's a simple tool, but it works for me. Because there needs to be a balance between things that you need to do, but maybe drain your energy, but also things that really bring you energy. And for me, and that's how I get to answer your question, growing and fulfilling my curiosity and learn and grow is necessary. So it brings me energy, and I need to build in time for that. And then I don't have the time to follow really long courses. I think it's also the time that my patience doesn't. But watching podcasts, reading a book, talking to other HR professionals in your network, going to other companies and see how they do things. Inviting a specialist into your HR town halls or HR meetings. This is how I learn. It's more the bite-sized learning that I do now instead of the really big courses, which I also like, but which is harder to build into your schedule, right?
Yeah. One of the things that you said in the last conversation, which I think is really important for people to hear, is that you're also very open in your communication to the family, that when you have particular rollouts or implementations, that you communicate that, hey, I'm going to be pretty busy in these periods, and you're just very open about that as a family and discuss that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, of course. I am indeed open about it, not only to my family, but also to my boss, to my team. So when you're a woman on this and working on this level, it's one thing, right? You always have less time than your male colleagues. It's a given. It's even proven in all the research. So time is of the essence. And you also need to bring sacrifices. Everyone needs to bring sacrifices when you're working on this level. But I think that females who have a family always have more easy, the guilt around that. Not everyone, I hope. And of course, also male have that. But it's difficult to balance. So you have to bring sacrifices. So although I really try to be there as much as I can, I am definitely not always there, and I miss some highlights. So what I always do is checking in with the family. Is this still working? Is it still working for you? How are you doing? But I tell them when I'm in very busy periods, or when I'm launching something, or in the middle of a project, then they know that I'm off balance. So they know I have less time, but it's on purpose. It is for a reason, right? And I share that with them. And that's what we discussed last time. And I think this resonated with so many others. I mentioned when you're off balance on purpose, then communicate that, to others, so that they know what's happening. But if you're off balance and it's not on purpose, that is also a sign and a watch out. So then you need to take a deeper look into why I'm off balance and what's going on, and ensure that you fix that.
Yeah, that was one of the main takeaways from our last conversation that really stuck with me. And I think I'm going to be more conscious of that moving forward. Like, I love the analogy of being off balance, but to your point, are you off balance by choice? Are you off?
Yes.
or are you just off balance, which obviously then is a concern. So now, and it's very easy to move from one to the other without even realizing. And I think it's important.
Definitely.
Yeah, and not even realize until it's too late. And then to communicate that to your friends and family and to say, hey, I'm going to be off balance. It's by choice, and just communicate that. I think that's one of the big takeaways from our last conversation. I think everyone listening right now can learn a lot.
And then they can also keep an eye, that you don't only keep an eye on yourself, but that they also can keep an eye. So that they, and that's, I think, also the healthy thing, right? Balancing career and private. Your private life puts everything in perspective. I mean, like at times my care couldn't care less that I'm in a project or other things. They just need you, right? So that's then also, I think, a healthy way to keep on putting things in perspective, and it's just as important.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the sacrifices that you've had to make, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome in your career?
Yeah, the biggest challenge. So definitely, I have brought sacrifices. Like I said, there were important moments that I could not be there for the family on highlights, which can be like not graduations for swimming or for other activities that you see all the moms there, but also think that they go and pick up from a school trip or whatsoever, that I'm not there. Or when they have appointments in a hospital, that I cannot be there. And I really try to be there as much as possible, but it's not always the case. I also want to say, and that's what we did. My husband is a great support. So what also helped, I'm married to a German who's extremely structured. So that helps a lot. And who's really there for the kids always. So that doesn't always make my absence valid or better. That's not what I'm saying. But they always have the dad, to turn to, and that's very important to me. That they're in good hands.
Yeah, it's interesting that whenever I ask that question, it's never work related. So I ask people, what are the biggest challenges you face in your career? They never mention something at work. It's always the personal challenges. So it's interesting, right? That I ask you, what are the biggest challenges you're facing in your career? And you're actually, hey, it's nothing to do with the job itself. It's actually the impact on my personal life. I just think that's quite interesting. Because you could have said, oh, it's a challenge with this particular project or this thing, but I never get that answer. It's always the unintended consequences or sacrifices that have to be made, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yeah, so it's family, it's friends related. Not always being able to join to join the getaways with friends. I'm often the one who needs to cancel, because especially in such a global role, right? There's always something going on, especially when you're always, or also when you have a business role, or don't get me wrong, but our job is all about people, and there's always something going on.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier very quickly that when you worked in Africa, you understood the true meaning of resilience. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, when I was in Africa, and this was with my previous employer, by the way, they are very big in Congo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Congo is the second largest country of Africa, and it has everything to be one of the richest country of Africa, because they have so many minerals and things in the ground. And but due to all kinds of circumstances, they're one of the poorest countries in Africa. So there I was working with the HR team to transform the business on people, on capabilities, on the operating model, etc., implementing all kinds of IT and HRS systems. But before people were able to come to the office and get to work, they already had, many struggles behind them, making sure they had food on the table, making sure that their sick family members were taken care of. And then they were coming. And of course, I wanted to run in my regular pace there all the project, because I really wanted to help them. But before you could start to work, you really need the empathy, right? To really dive into what is going on in their lives and how you can do that, and make sure they had enough food, to start the day. So people in Congo, the ones that I met and the ones that I have been working very intensely together with for 3 years, they have difficult living circumstances, extremely difficult living circumstances. And despite that, they're always positive. Always. I mean, like, they have such a positive nature. They're always supporting others. And that was extremely helpful to see and to experience that from so close. Because often, obviously, you see it in the news, this true poverty, and people standing in lines for food. But if you see this in real time, especially when you're there with your young kids yourself, I mean, this comes in and this affects you and changes you, at least me and my family, for the rest of our lives. This experience in Congo brought my kids more, I believe, and taught more valuable lessons than I could ever teach them. And this has been extremely important, working with these different cultures. So, true resilience, I would say. And also work-wise, when you implement things there, it always goes different than you planned for in the beginning. So you need to have not only a plan A, but also B, also C. So you become so flexible and creative by finding solutions that this all builds your resilience. I mean, like, before that, I could be quite nervous, for a go live. Now, since I've been there, I know I've been there, I've seen it all. They don't drive me crazy anymore. So that helps a lot.
It gives you a different view on life, right? Like
a total different view on life. Absolutely.
Obviously, didn't grow up in that environment, but I had quite a tough upbringing. We were very poor, and that actually became one of my strengths when I came into business, because when people were struggling, I had a different level of resilience, because I was, because we really struggled. So I was like, this is easy, and not easy, but I mean, when I look at where I am, I'm like, oh, I'm grateful for because before I didn't have food sometimes, or electricity, or or clothes even. So it just it creates a different level of resilience that is a real superpower that you can take with you. And when you are in tough times, like you just said, you can move through that.
Definitely. It's nice how you said it. I truly believe that resilience is a superpower. So, and if you experience this from so closely, this will help you in the rest of your lives, and you're also way better in dealing with change because you've been there. And where many people first need to go through the change curve, I think we all know it, right? And you have all these different stages of the Kubler-Ross curve, as we call it in HR. People who had a very, like you, a difficult upbringing, or you have difficult circumstances, they go through the curve much faster, and that helps.
Yeah, it's a muscle that you build, right? And
it's a muscle.
And that's something that HR leaders are very good at, whether it's
yeah.
COVID, or whether it's a war or a political crisis. They're all different challenges, but the same muscle is now engaged of how we work through all of those things. And now, in many ways, kind of whenever those crises come to surface, the business looks towards HR, right, for help, which is actually really interesting when you think about it, right? They're like looking, what do we do about AI? There's always, it's interesting to see how HR has evolved to be that, I don't want to say the crisis management team, but I mean, as like the level of respect and strategic advisor that is risen to, that the business can look towards to help the organization and the people.
Absolutely. And this is great. And also in quite a fast period of time that the HR function evolved like this, because I remember, when I graduated in labor law and that I wanted to do HR, people were like, there were only 2 people, who wanted to do that. So I was like, why? They said, yeah, it's such, a soft profession. And so this was totally different. And now it's what you say, whenever there's a crisis or when it's really necessary, they look at HR the first time. So the function evolves and we need to evolve along.
Yeah. If you can't evolve and you don't like change, you can't work in HR.
Definitely.
Yeah. Floor,
so the flexibility, the resilience,
you need that.
Being creative and innovative, you need that.
Yeah. Floor, before I let you go, I want to ask you some quick fire questions, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you like 5 or 6 questions, but you only have 30 seconds to answer each question.
30 seconds.
That's it.
Okay.
Per question, right? So
tell me.
Let's go. What are your hobbies and passions outside the office?
My hobbies and passions is running, it's reading, and it's wining, dining with friends.
Nice. Love it. If you could click your fingers and change one thing about HR, what would you change?
The speed. Still going faster.
That's a good answer. How would your kids describe what you do for a living?
That's a very funny one. They describe my mom does something with people, and that's how far it gets.
And she's very, very busy. Yeah.
Exactly.
What legacy do you want to leave behind for your kids?
Oh, that's also, and I only have 30. It's a very deep question.
I know. Sorry. Yeah, that's a tough one.
That whatever they are going to do, that they are happy, that they're doing something that they are liking, and that they're good human beings supporting others, and that they don't forget to smile every day.
Oh, I love that. That was great for 30 seconds. Have you ever considered quitting HR?
Never.
Okay,
never.
We'll leave that one then. What would you say is the biggest investment you've made in yourself?
Financially, it has been coaching and a course at INSEAD.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest investment is more like things that I didn't do. So that's my biggest investment. Saying And what is still on my bucket list, and that will be my biggest investment. So I'm going to do that, and I want to do it before I'm turning 50. So if I say it now in the podcast, I really need to do it. It's a retreat in Thailand with monks as well, to really go into yourself. Take the silence, take the rest, and go there and reflect. So that's something that I really would like to do, and I'm looking forward to.
You've projected it into the universe now, so now it's gonna happen.
And Chris, you can join, huh?
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people that impact our careers along the journey, both in the office and at home, right? But who would you say is the one person in your life that's had the biggest impact on your career?
Two persons. Privately, my dad, who had a very big impact on my career by starting the law career, and also make sure that you had the social aspect and do something good for other people. This is something that he taught me from, whenever I was young. And then secondly, one of the brewery managers that I used to work with, who had a very big impact on my career, and who taught me to be more bold, say immediately what you want and what you don't want, but in a positive way, I mean. So he also was very important for my career, and really go into this HR operations thing, because he said you are made for it. And he knew when I didn't know myself yet.
We should give him a shout out. What's his name?
It's Godfried Meijer, and unfortunately he passed away.
Oh, okay.
But he was a very important person in my career.
Amazing. And I think a point that just to highlight what you just said there is sometimes people see things in us before we see it ourselves. And I love that you mentioned that, because that happens so much. And those people that see stuff in us that we can't see in ourselves are very important.
Definitely. And they helped me both so much in my career. So I find it important that I also give that back, right? So I think that's something that we should do. So I'm trying to do that.
Last question. What's one piece of advice that you give to those HR leaders of tomorrow?
Build resilience, never give up, and be clear in what you want and what you don't want, but always remain yourself and authentic.
I love it.
Because many times as HR at the table, you have a different opinion than the rest.
Yeah, it's important to speak up, right?
You need to use your voice and not give up.
Yeah. Well, Floor, I appreciate you coming on the show. It means a lot. And I know you said to me when we first ever met, you don't do things like this much. And I'm so happy that you did, because there's so many people that are listening right now that need to hear what you've just shared with everyone. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us and being vulnerable and sharing to help others. And I wish you and the team all the best until we next speak. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot to you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm glad I did it. So
amazing. I'm glad the first one went well.
Okay.
See you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later.